So what I'm going to do today is really dive into the resources and tools that the RPAG Center has that may not be one of those core deliverables or core investment review reports that you have access to that I use with all of my clients every year or every meeting as a way for you to bring that client satisfaction to them and make sure that the next time an advisor comes asking some probing questions to what is now your client, you know that they have the right answers and that they aren't going to take that call from that advisor who is asking those probing questions. So, as I said, my name is Ryan Hamilton. I'm an advisor with NFP. I have my own set of clients that I meet with on a daily basis. And really my job on a day in, day out basis is delivering on those promises that Tom Hoyer makes to those prospects and all the crazy deliverables that we're gonna do. I have to then meet those. Luckily, I'm joined today by two great provider partners. Scott, Kara, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Scott Harrison. I'm a regional vice president with the Standard. I was just doing the math this morning and it kind of depressed me. I've been in the industry 29 years and I've been in sales about 27 years. So I'm here to help on all different types of plan situations and hearing the last speakers talk about situations going into finals and preparations, it's all preparation. You put so much work into getting to that meeting, you've got to give your A game every single time. And then our topic today is spinning around at how do you then not drop the ball after you've won the business?
Thanks so much. Kara?
I'm Kara Kidney. I think I know many of you, but I'm part of the leadership team at One America. Covering the West sales region. I've actually been in the industry for 20 years now. 14 years ago, I actually served as Scott's internal partner at One America. So if I, get stage fright and forget, he's going to help fill in for me, he said. So,
yes.
Super excited to be here. Yesterday, Thursday sessions were really great, but Friday, I'm in love with what the sessions are today and what we're about to cover.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you bringing those music clues into this session as well. So like I said, I was going to dive deeper into some of the tools and resources that you have at your fingertips as an RPAG member. And first and foremost, just look at the massive quantity of options there on that screen. This is just the first drop down in the RPAG menu. You can see all of those resources, tools, practice management options, scorecard systems where you can do a deeper dive into all of the investment resources that you have at your fingertips. First, I'm going to dive into some of those tools specifically. At the top, plan fees. This is something that I use with every single one of my clients at least once a year. When you are building that new prospect, you're talking about fees, you're talking about how you can work with them to do a provider benchmarking, you can reduce their record-keeping cost. There's so many opportunities for investment management and reduction in the investment management fees, how you as the advisor are going to charge X number of dollars. But a year later, you've done all of that work. You've reduced their fees. You've brought in new investments. You've taken advantage of the RPAG CITs. It's a great tool a year later after they've said yes, that you've got that prospect. Come back with this plan fees report. First thing, be transparent with your fees. I've found a lot of the clients I work with really appreciate the yearly reminder of here's what I'm getting paid. Here are the services I'm providing, and here's what I charge for that. That's a great way. They really appreciate that transparency of talking about what our fees are. But what I really like about doing it through this plan fees report is that the graphs and the charts in this report really prioritize the total plan fees. So when you come to them with this report, while you get to be transparent and the client really appreciates the transparency on your fees, the focus is really on the total plan fees. And if you're taking advantage of those low-cost CITs that you have access to, if you have just done a benchmarking where you have to reduce their total plan fees, oftentimes that total fee is well below the average. And so when you walk away after presenting this plan fees report, oftentimes not only is the plan sponsor walking away, appreciating the transparency that you just brought to your own fee, they're also walking away, patting themselves on the back, really happy that they've hired you and of the work that they as the committee have done over the last year to bring the plan fees so close. Next up, I want to talk about the fiduciary briefcase, because this is something else that I see happen a ton in the initial prospecting stages when you're asking those probing questions. Do you have a plan document? Do you have a copy of the adoption agreement? Do you have your copy of your 408B2s? Have you ever set up an investment policy statement or a committee charter? And so during the prospecting stages, you're asking a lot of probing questions. The committee and your main contact that you're working with is really seeing their, really scrambling. They're trying to find these, they're trying to request them, they're trying to see where they have access to them, where are they stored. And so one of the things I do whenever I bring on a new client right away is I introduce them to the fiduciary briefcase. Hey, remember all those files and all those documents that I was requesting from you and that you were having to go scramble to find? We're gonna take those for you, we're gonna save them in one central location. Anytime you ever need access to any of these documents or any of the documents we ever create for you in the future, they're all gonna be saved in one central location for you to access. And them having experienced the pain of trying to find those during the entire prospecting stage, then this goes really well with, they really appreciate that as you introduce the fiduciary briefcase to them right from the start. And then the last one I really wanted to highlight here is this is something I've used a ton in the last year, is that stable value analyzer report under the tools section. The last year has been crazy with interest rates. Many providers have come out with new products when it comes to the cash equivalent space. We've also seen tons of existing products have massive changes in their crediting rates, changes in their liquidity provisions, be that puts starting to be enforced or market value adjustments. And so this has been something I used with all of my clients over the last year, just to do that deeper dive into the cash fund available in their plan. And it's been something that's been really appreciated by those clients. And it's been something else that I've been able to use as a way to flex my investment knowledge and really remind them why they hired us to begin with. They can't do that level of deep investment due diligence without some of the resources and tools that we as the advisor have to bring. Tom used that example of a everyday gardener versus the experts mowing that golf course. This is exactly one of the reasons why we as RPAG members have some of these resources available, like the stable value analyzer, where you're able to dive much deeper than looking at a simple 5-year return or looking at average fees. That's not something you can necessarily look at when it comes to cash funds. So next I want to dive deeper into the resources and specifically the resource center. You can see on the left a ton of a ton of items in that category of different folders that you can select resources from. First I want to highlight the CITs and custom TDFs folder there at the top. This is something I access pretty much every time I meet with a client because in there are quarterly CIT commentaries. As you can imagine, most of my clients are utilizing the CITs, and so I don't have to go do my own custom investment due diligence because that's already done for me. We'll talk about executive summaries here in a few minutes, but essentially that commentary that's available in that folder, I'm able to copy paste directly into the executive summaries. So I'm not having to write any custom analysis or custom commentary when I'm doing my executive summaries. It saves me tons of valuable time after a client meeting, just being able to copy paste the commentaries that you can find in that folder directly into the executive summary. So I highly recommend going in there and looking around and seeing what resources are available there. The other thing I wanted to highlight was the fiduciary compliance and plan design folder. Specifically, obviously in there we have investment policy statements, committee charters, everything you need, but the fiduciary education modules. This is a great way for both existing for the new prospects that you just brought in, as well as existing clients who may have had committee turnover, as a way to really remind them of why they hired you to be their advisor. We just had talks from all those salespeople about asking those probing questions, getting insight into what is going on, how are they running their plan today, and why it's important to hire an advisor. This is essentially a way to remind them of what the DOL's requirement is for a fiduciary and highlighting why those requirements are something that they need to meet. But what's nice about the modules themselves is they're actually written in a way that show that how you as an advisor are going to hold their hand through that entire fiduciary process. One document specifically in that folder I want to highlight is this one-pager that highlights our entire fiduciary fitness program and highlights specifically a Vimeo link at the top to a recording for all of the education modules. So you as a plan advisor are way too busy. You have a new committee member come on board. You don't have time to set up a 1-hour custom call with that new committee member, walk them through the steps, remind them why they're a fiduciary, what their responsibilities are. You're just too busy. And so what you can do is send them this link and tell them to watch the first 10 videos. It takes about 20 minutes. And then you're able to jump on a 15, 20-minute call with them. Hey, did you have any questions? Hey, is this something you're familiar with? Have you served on a committee before? What's your familiarity with the retirement plan? And all of a sudden, you're spending that 15, 20 minutes of your time really building a relationship with that new committee member rather than spending 20 or 30 minutes trying to lecture to them, trying to go through a boring PowerPoint presentation. So I think this is a great resource. It's something I highly recommend you utilize, especially as you bring new committee members on board. So this is where I want to turn to you. I just walked through a ton of tools and resources that we have available to us through the RPAG system. I know your websites are amazing and have a ton of tools and resources available as well. Kara, for you first, do you have any tools or resources that you've seen either on the plan sponsor side or the employee side that maybe you've seen really well received?
Yeah, a couple of things. We actually recently rolled out, in the beginning of this year, additional capabilities for plan sponsors. One of them is around the 316 capabilities, because a lot of administrators want to offload some of that fiduciary responsibility. So for new plans, and then for existing plans, if you have with One America later this year, you'll be able to have that capability as well. And then the other thing that we rolled out as of January 1st is partnering with different payroll entities, is the ability to do 360 payroll integration with some of these larger payroll providers. I mean, that's a big deal too. I think somebody mentioned yesterday the importance of payroll integration. So any size plan can have, payroll integration 180 or in a lot of cases 360. So for new plans and then existing plans that's coming later this year. So two key things to help with some of those administrative responsibilities.
Yeah, payroll integration has been something I've worked with almost every one of my clients on, trying to either see, is this feasible? And if it is feasible, can we get that implemented? Scott, how about you?
We have our PlanNet website, and so that's resources for plan sponsors to go through and pull reporting. So it comes in handy during auditing season, especially for, say, an intricate plan like a not-for-profit with a 5/1 to 4/30 plan year. Sometimes it's tough to pull the reporting. It's a really easy tool that makes it easy for the plan sponsor to pull that data. Other things as well that we're seeing, tools, and I would count it as like converting plans over from being payroll, using payroll integration, but instead of having loans run through payroll, we have the ability to do loans via ACH. And so it's like, how can we not only be a partner with the plan sponsor and provide the services, but how do we actually take more work off of their plate? And I describe it in a presentation as we take your HR team out of playing banker in the situation because it automates loans and they're no longer a function of payroll.
Appreciate it. Yeah, those custom services are just a time suck for some of the HR committee members that I work with, and they always really appreciate it when you're able to take that off their plate for them.
Right.
So, throughout the sales process, we promise the world. I think it's really important to then manage expectations as you provide those ongoing services. And for that, I really like the service plan. This is something I use with every one of my clients at every one of my meetings. Every meeting I go through, what did we talk about last meeting? What are we going to talk about this meeting? What are we talking about next meeting? I also really like this as a way to provide, long-term goal planning. Hey, we just did a provider analysis 2 years ago. We have another provider analysis coming up next year. So that way you can give your clients a roadmap for what's coming up and what's coming down the pipeline for them. The other thing I really like using the service plan for is that upsell. Tony talked about it at the beginning during one of his sessions was you should be selling to the clients who've already sold to in the past. Maybe during the onset of your relationship, they didn't want to hire you to do be the non-qual manager or provide employee education. Maybe that was too big of a cost at the time. But circumstances change. Maybe there's a new decision maker in the room and they didn't know that you offered employee education. So in my service plan, I always include all of the services that we can provide them as a way to remind them that these are services that they can buy from us at any time. And so I've had a lot of plan sponsors that I work with over the last few years have a couple extra dollars available in their budget and have hired us to come out and, with the hot topic that is financial wellness right now, want us to come out and talk to their employees about their entire benefits package, not just dive into the 401k plan that maybe they're getting from their current provider. And so this is something that I've seen a ton of benefit from and like to include in almost all of my reports. Going back to you, I would love to see, hear what kind of resources do you have available as you, think about the offerings you have, especially when it comes to notifications, the notifications to employees, and notifications regarding loans, fund changes. What are you able to bring? Scott, maybe you first.
Sure, thanks. So fulfillment services, what we would call fulfillment services, so delivery of the notices, it's geared towards, we're at a point where as long as we have email addresses, we can deliver all of the notices electronically via email. Those that can no longer be, like we don't have addresses for, or we don't have email addresses for, those would be then hard mailed. But again, it's gone a long way from sending a stack of 25 pages to your plan sponsor and saying, hey, print these and distribute to your employees. Now it's a matter of collecting the information from the prior provider and having all that data to make this as smooth as possible.
Appreciate it. Kara, how about One America?
I think, when plan sponsors get these notices, you often or periodically have plan sponsors that are new into working with the retirement plan, and they don't maybe fully understand what all these notices are about. So I would say at One America, it's access to people. Regardless of the size of the planet, every single plan at One America has an assigned relationship manager, and in most cases, an assigned plan manager. And how many times have you just wanted to be able to pick up the phone to talk to somebody, right? You're tired of all the emails back and forth, or just calling an 800 number and getting a different person every time. So, One America, we're really, being a mutually owned organization based in Indianapolis, Indiana, we don't outsource any of our work. So everything's done, through One America employees. And it's the access to being able to talk to somebody.
Yeah, that goes a great way for managing those expectations and making sure that they know that they can get a person on the phone when they need it.
Right.
Appreciate it. Sticking with managing expectations, two other tools that I'm surprised how infrequently I see them used is the meeting agenda and the meeting minutes tools that you have available in the RPAG Resource Center. Once again, I use these for every client at every meeting. It's so easy. 3 clicks of a button and you essentially are pre-populating an agenda and a template that has all of the committee members who are going to be in attendance, who from your team, who from the provider might be in attendance. All of that pre-populates for you. It comes with a standard output and then some quick customizations. Has there been a service issue come up that you need to address? Is there testing problems? Inserting just into that agenda, quick typing, it's done, and you have the agenda all set, ready to go. What I really like to do with this is send it to the committee a week in advance, say, hey, here's the agenda that I'm planning to talk about. Not only is it a way to remind them, hey, we have a meeting coming up. Is your calendar still open at that time? I know you said a month ago that you said it was free, but is it still free today? Not only does it give me that ability to touch base, but it also gives me the ability to ask, here's what my agenda looks like. Is this what you want to talk about? Or has something else come up? Is something else weighing on your mind? Do you have bigger problems right now? And that way I get that feedback directly from the committee before I come in, start talking to them for an hour about things that they don't really care about because something else has come up beforehand. So that agenda is a great way to touch base beforehand and really manage the expectations about what are you going to talk about today or at your meeting and what do they want you to talk about. Then same thing with the meeting minutes afterwards, documenting what was discussed. It's a great follow-up. And one of the things I really recommend you to utilize is at the bottom, there's a follow-up section. And that's something essentially I use for all of my meeting minutes is saying, here were the follow-up items, here's what I need to address. It's especially important if there's anything that the client needed. Was the client supposed to go find something or was the client supposed to send you some contact for a participant that you were supposed to reach out to? That way you can really document what those follow-up items were, who's responsible for what. And it's just a great way to stay in touch with the plan sponsor after the meeting and keep that communication going. And then finally, tying it all together. This is that output step on the provider analysis, the FIR, all of the outputs look like this. So I'm not going to walk you through how to build a report. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, and I'm sure we're going to have a presentation on it here in a few minutes. So really what I put on this slide was I wanted to highlight that all of those items that I just highlighted, the provider analysis, the service plan, the meeting agenda, the meeting minutes, all of that can be inserted into your reports with a click of a button. You can see just there in the dropdown, just as easy as clicking add. You can add the meeting agenda that you just created straight into your report. Doesn't take that long, really easy to do. Along with my report, I often like to include the provider's plan review. And so with that, I want to once again get your feedback. With your plan review, and as you've seen these presented to plan sponsors, to prospects over the years, what have been the key graphs or charts that maybe your plan review has that I should make sure that every time I meet with a client, I should be looking for that kind of information? What have you seen plan sponsors respond to really well? Kara, how about you?
Yeah, well, so much of it is around education, right? And helping participants and how are you growing the needle to increase participation, increase deferrals, especially if there's not the automatic features. One of the things that we really have plan sponsors gravitate to is our education and communication calendar per se, and a lot of it's around the customization. We have the ability to customize the marketing materials down to $3 million. So it's, we can get pretty small size plans and customization. So during the annual reviews, a lot of times it's updating what does those custom marketing websites look like, the branding, the marketing materials as well. So it really speaks to what can, the previous session was about customization for the presentation, but now it's taking a step farther, customizing for that employer so that those materials speak in the language of those employees versus just, 401k, moderate, balanced, conservative language.
Exactly. Scott, how about your report?
So the annual plan review would be a report that you would look through, and similar to what Kara said, it's pretty much the same data across the board where you've got participation rates, who's not participating, and then the ability to look at different demographics. So, I have no participation or very low participation amongst our lowest age groups, and allows us to customize future education towards just those segments of the marketplace. So it's not uncommon for us to use that to look at, okay, we're taking care of the executives, they're all on board, they understand the plan, we're focusing it towards those that are putting a little in, but not enough, or those that aren't participating at all. And then instead of having all of them mixed together in one meeting, we're designating them out to where these are the people not participating at all, and then we can deliver a different message to them. And then for those that are already active, we can just kind of fine tune, help them increase their participation. But the others, it's really focusing on where the ball is being dropped as far as participation.
Yeah, that age-based segregation chart is something that I've seen a lot of plan sponsors really hone in on, and hey, let's go find that group. How many, who are those participants that fall into there was one recently with the lost generation. I didn't know we had anyone working still 78 or older. Who are those? What education do we need to give them? Probably most of them are retired. Do we need to help them know their options for rollout versus keeping their money in the plan? So with that, I know we have a little bit of time left, and I would love to really pass it over to you and really hear about some of the other ways that you help keep your clients satisfied. I think first up, we have One America, and if I wanted to give you like a lead-in question, obviously the industry's had a lot of consolidation over the years, lots of legislation passed, and what is One America doing to remain relevant in this area with all of the change that we've seen?
Sure, absolutely. And I'll hit on a couple of key items. Like Ryan mentioned, we've seen a lot of consolidation just, from advisor firms, DCIO, and the record-keeping firms. And that's one of the questions I get a lot of times from advisors is, what is One America doing to stay relevant or committed to the industry, or some might say staying alive? Not getting a call. You like that one.
That was good. I was wondering when your first one was going to come through. So, okay.
To stay committed to the industry. And, as an organization, 75% of our assets under management represented in the retirement space, and 40% of the revenue that One America receives is from our retirement plans. So it's a big part of our business and what we do. In addition to that, we this year and next year are putting substantial resources to enhancing our digital capabilities, and that means upgrading our website, starting with the participant website, followed by the plan sponsor and the advisor website. So putting a lot of resources in that, so you'll start to see more of that later this year and part of next year. And I think, like I mentioned, we're a mutually owned organization, so we're domestic-based. Call center is in Indianapolis. Our plan design consultants are all Indianapolis. And Plan Sponsor Award, we have the most best-in-class awards since 2007. And I think if you would ask a plan sponsor or an advisor, why that is, it's probably because they say, because I'm happy, with what the services that they're getting. We're going to have some fun with it, right?
We'll applause that one. That's a good one.
So if we go to the next slide here, another thing is we've heard a lot about is just the rollover analyzer that Luke and Veronica talked about yesterday. So curious, I asked the same question last year. By show of hands, how many of you are pure retirement plan advisors? That's all you do, you just work with the retirement plan. Okay, Ron, we got a few. Mike, Dahlia. How many of you would say you're, retirement plan advisors, you work in the wealth management space or insurance sales as well, kind of do both, or maybe somebody in your office does both? Okay, I see a few more hands, right? And so what often that means is that you want to be able to do the wealth management and work with those terminated participants, and so that you can use that new rollover analyzer tool. Right? But what we've seen in the marketplace, and some of the record keepers have been doing it for a while, and some are new into this, is that, our cross-selling to your participants, cross-selling to your terminated participants when you have the plan with that provider. Well, at One America, we do things a little bit different. We believe in you as an advisor have the choice to determine what you want to have done. We really want to look at One America and be your best partner. So as an advisor, when you're working with One America, you tell us, your sales rep or your ongoing relationship manager, at what size level do you want to work with those terminated participants? Is it you want to work with any terminated participant $50,000 or higher, or $100,000 or higher? So that when that participant terminates, you are able to get an email that lets you know that that participant has terminated, so you or somebody on your team can reach out to that participant and determine how you want to work with them for their rollover assets. So we're not competing with you for that wallet share, but we're actually complementing what you do as far as your practice goes. And then the last thing I want to hit on, just before I turn it back over to you, Ryan, is the SECURE Act has done a great job, especially the more recent one, getting more people to save, right? Now the automatic enrollment features that are required for new plans, or a lot of states, many of us are in California, requiring the state to have retirement plans. I know Colorado, Jane, this year, Colorado is requiring employers to have retirement plans. And there's all this talk about saving. But if you're getting close to retirement, or even if you're, say, 20 years away from retirement, what does that look like once you retire and that paycheck no longer comes in? Do you have any idea what you can spend or what your paycheck will be taking out of the retirement plan? So One America has partnered up with Shlomo. As many of you know, he's a behavioral economist and has paved the way for saving in retirement plans. But now he's also talking about decumulation. How do you help participants with that day they retire, which is exciting, but can be scary because they have no idea how much they can take out of their retirement account or any other savings. So One America, we're the first record keeper to partner up with Shlomo on the PensionPlus. And it's a simple to use, easy tool for participants that they can answer a few questions to determine what does that paycheck look like. You have a male and a female 60 years of age, they've saved the exact same amount. Their paycheck on what they take out of the retirement plan is going to be different because of certain scenarios in their situation. So, more to come on this later this year, but it's really a great tool to be able to, again, go back to helping participants on not only saving retirement, but how do you help them after they hit retirement phase?
Yeah, I know, a really important conversation that lots of plan participants and plan sponsors are now starting to have. So now that you're done presenting, any other final comments?
Well, before I turn it over to Ryan and Scott, I just want to thank everybody for being here. It's always, One America, always so great to be here. I'm sure we're ready to get on our apple bottom jeans, put our boots with the fur on because it's cold. I've got a feeling it's a good night because it's Friday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Oh, good. Awesome.
All right, Scott. So how about from the standard? We talked a lot about client satisfaction, what the whole panel's about. How do you measure client satisfaction?
So I think the most obvious is plan sponsor with the scoring on their DC survey. We're now showing up in 3 different categories: the 0 to 5, the 5 to 25, and the 25 to 50. So it's all about providing services that your clients value. It's in Southern California, buying a car with rust proofing underneath isn't really an added value to that. But having a plan with loans outside of payroll, those are little things that if we can take work off of their plate, it's going to reflect in their satisfaction with us as a provider. This last year has been a very exciting year at the Standard. We've doubled in size because of the acquisition of Securian. I was actually at Standard before, and then at Securian, and now back at Standard. So I'm one of 2 employees that made that round trip. So it's a good place to be. But we've doubled our assets, we've doubled our resources. So we have service centers in Cincinnati, we have service centers in St. Paul and in Portland, and then we have outstanding manpower and resources behind the scenes, relationship managers, account managers, legal, technical, even our wholesalers, have a lot of experience in solving problems. And so you can come to us as an order taker, but our clients are looking for us to provide solutions. And so the DC survey, we look very closely at that. We also look at the advisor survey, which is the next slide. We're offering, like advisors look at us as a resource because of our regulatory support. Again, you can ask 3 different ERISA counsel the same question and get 3 different answers. Please add us to that list because sometimes you need another opinion on something or a situation that's a little sticky. It'd be great to have another resource that has your best interest in mind when they're providing solutions. The mobile app, it's great. The mobile app was really great in that it's one button click to Spanish. So whether you're on our website, you're on an iPad, or you're in the actual app itself, there's a button at the top that looks like a globe. You click that, the whole thing it converts to Spanish. And then you can run through it in Spanish, one button click, it converts back to English. And then also having a full service app where you can do everything that you could do through our website or through the 800 number, you can do through the app. So again, not that we're pushing people to it, people are migrating to it. They'd much rather deal with the app than to call a human. Again, but having the manpower in our call centers means that we've got humans that if your clients, the participants reach out and call us on the phone, they're calling about something really important. They're not calling just to check their account balance because they could do that so many other ways. They want to talk to a human. And so we've got humans available for them to talk to help them through their situation because we realize this is probably their largest savings for retirement is in their retirement plan. So it's very, very important to them. So we want to make sure that we have the manpower. Staff credentials, I have 4 designations. There's many with many more than me, but having the people with the knowledge, not just being able to do the things, but actually having the technical expertise to support you in your businesses. And then, having all the cool calculators. We do the calculators without having to log into our website, so the participants can access that, look through, and do things without actually having to set up a username and password or actually be in our system yet.
Yeah, that mobile app's super important. Even as a 401k advisor, I've never actually logged into my 401k through the website. I've only ever used the app. Something that I know is a very valuable tool to a lot of participants out there. So next up, what tools do you have that most clients seem to love the most? Is it those calculators that you just talked about? Are there other tools that you see a lot of clients?
So I'd say the first one would be PlanNet. PlanNet is the plan sponsors access to view data and pull information and create reports. I know with many other providers, they don't have the ability to pull information in any manner that you'd like. Sometimes your auditor wants things a certain way. It may not be that easy. We have PlanNet, so it's really built out that you can customize reports to add or include or exclude fields. And above and beyond PlanNet, if you can't get a report in the manner that you want, you can always contact the account manager who has the ability to go above and beyond to create these different types of reports. But I wanted to add another feature too, above and beyond PlanNet. I get a lot of feedback from our plan sponsors on plan data management. That is our system for uploading contribution files for those that are not in a payroll integration situation. And so with PlanNet, we've always looked at it as we don't want just in the olden days, early 401ks in the 90s, you'd get a name and a social security number, a deferral, and a match, and that was about it. Well, we want all the data all the time because we use this to automate the plan and make it as easy for the plan sponsor. So they hire a new employee. They upload the contribution file to us. We capture that employee's address and information from that file upload. An employee terminates, we capture it from the upload. An employee is rehired, we again capture that from the contribution upload. But it makes it really easy. If it's an unbundled plan, they can pull data on the fly mid-year for a mid-year test because we're looking for all the data all the time. So we want compensation, we want deferrals, we want match, we want addresses, we want the whole plethora of information so we can keep our system constantly updated and make it as easy as possible for the plan sponsor.
I know they appreciate it when you keep it easy for them.
Right.
So, we've been talking a lot about the tools and resources that you have to make the plan sponsor's life easier, but your clients are also the advisor. How do you, what do you do to keep the advisor satisfied? How do you think about the advisor satisfaction? And what maybe are advisors underutilizing that the standard can offer?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have resources behind the scenes for advisors. So it could be white labeled materials for you for a particular opportunity. We have multimedia financial wellness presentations, prospecting tools. We've done a lot over the last 2 years of basically sponsoring for the IAF or CPFA or CFP. So, looking at it as we can be a resource. We don't want to, and we're not big enough to be an order taker. We've got to have a value added that we bring to the table for you to want to work with us. So just being a number out there, I never win any business just for being there. I've got to win it because we're providing extra value, extra tools. Also state-sponsored plans. As much as I wanted to completely ignore CalSavers, I had to dig deep and learn the intricacies of it, as I'm sure many of you had to, because you're competing against it. It's not just me competing against it, you're competing against it as well. It's knowing the mandates that are coming out and how to address them and helping your clients fulfill their roles as plan sponsors.
Perfect. Really appreciate it. Thank you both so much for your time today. That wraps up my session, and I've got about 4 minutes left. So Jeff, I really want you up here singing some more. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time today.